Okay, you are live.
Welcome everybody to our September Annapolis Conservancy Board meeting. I am Jack Turner, the chair. We've got our agenda. Hopefully everybody has had a chance to review the agenda that was sent around. Didn't have any updates to it, so that is our final agenda. We've got the meeting minutes from our July 13th meeting that Racine circulated. So it is 5:31. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Our first item of business is approving the July 13th, 2023 meeting minutes. I just had a chance to briefly look them over, but on my end, I have no comments, but I will open the floor to any discussion on the meeting minutes.
I'm just going to abstain since I wasn't present.
Okay. You missed a good one. We had Eric Lashinsky from the city talking about the comp plan. And we'll talk about that a little more this evening, because that's kind of a little bit front and center, I think, for us right now. All right. Well, in that case, I will move to approve our July 13th, 2023 meeting minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I believe that it passes with 4 yeas and 1 abstain. Okay. Moving along here, our next item of business, this is our big kind of chapter in the agenda here, our duties discussion and 2023 goals. So as I explained, I think in our last meeting, I broke the agenda out into what I saw as the Conservancy Board's main duties to the city. And so going forward, try to structure the agenda under these different duties, and we can try to assign items to various board members under those headers. And I think that's a good way to proceed. I had some discussions with, I think, everybody here, and that seemed like a good move. So under our first bullet here is soliciting dedication of properties, real and personal, to the city. My main point that I'll make here is that with the 2040 draft comprehensive plan that's now available, there is a good amount of information on what the city's calling areas for potential easements or potential new easement areas. And there's a map of this in the comprehensive plan. And I think that's somewhere that the Conservancy Board could bring some value and support the city, maybe come up with, some kind of hierarchy or prioritization for these areas, because there are a lot of them. And if I can share my screen, this is the main figure, which is kind of, I think this is kind of the Greenway map for those who are familiar. And this kind of not dark, but like light middle green color, this is the areas for potential easements. So you can see there are a bunch of them throughout the city. Some are close to the water, some are a little more inland, but I think generally a lot of them are around our streams and kind of water resources is what it looks like on this map. And I talked with Sean Wampler at the city, who helped to explain, she's the one who put together a lot of the figures. And Sean explained to me that this was put together with input from the public, and folks could go onto a GIS map that the city put out for input and say, hey, I think this would be a good area for an easement. And then other people could come and vote and say, I agree. So this was put together with public input, is my understanding. And this is the current status. And as part of that discussion with Sean, who runs the GIS for the city, Sean is going to get the background data on this, because this is just a static image. But what I'd like to do is look at where, who owns these properties. Are these individual parcels? Are they multiple parcels? And hopefully everybody can see the screen. So anyway, I think that this is kind of this is the meat of soliciting new properties to the city. I think is going to be digging into this data a bit and trying to discern, what's highly valuable, what's, medium, and what, we maybe shouldn't focus our efforts on. And I would like anybody else's input here. I will turn it over and get others' thoughts if anybody's had a chance to look at this in the comp plan.
Yeah, I checked it. Oh yeah, I'm on mute. Okay. This is basically the map that our board put together, and then they solicited public comment, but we identified like 95% of these were our board identified. So I checked it because I checked it yesterday versus the map that we had given to the city, and it's nearly identical. There are like a few more parcels that they put in. Okay. But these are all, you can see that the parcel lines are on there. So
I couldn't tell, like when I talked with Sean, I see there's kind of like these dotted lines, but I couldn't tell if those were actually property boundaries or so.
And I think the map that we started with where we identified these is and I think it's in the Google Drive for the board, but if it's not, let me know and I can add it because I have a copy of it.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it, but I'll let you know. Thank you.
But we I'm trying to remember, maybe Linda remembers also, but what criteria we were looking for, but mostly we were just looking for places that would create connections between existing easements and other forested areas, and just to try to create a better greenway network. But and I think that, but they're like you were saying about hierarchy, like some of these may be HOA owned parcels that can't be developed anyway, so that would probably be a good place to start in terms of weeding some out if we were trying to narrow down like which ones are more important to protect first.
That's great input. And I think that we probably won't accomplish specific criteria in this meeting, but maybe we should set up a time to discuss what criteria we think would be important, and then we can start. I'd be happy to work with anyone to set up a spreadsheet, get all these potential easements in a list, and start looking at who owns them, what's the acreage, why was it originally identified, and try to make some criteria. And then we can kind of have this matrix of this one is low-hanging fruit and this one is probably very difficult, and start to make a recommendation that way. I don't know, Karen, do you know I don't think anything like that had been done previously.
No, not to that extent, but I'm kind of wondering because one of the things in the comprehensive plan is that they had a goal of having the city develop a professional greenway plan that would be updated yearly and would be co-managed between the Department of Planning and Zoning and the Conservancy Board. So I don't know if we want to kind of wait and see what they're going to do so that we aren't reinventing the wheel, so to speak, you know what I mean, or duplicating efforts. But of course, that wouldn't be implemented for a while, I would guess, because they have to still get the comp plan approved. So I don't know. But
and Karen, wasn't there I don't know if I'd call it a spreadsheet per se, but wasn't there like a coding that Sean had developed associated with at least a numbering and of the parcels and reasons why they were put on there, and some notes?
I don't recall. There may have been.
I don't feel like we just were looking at a map. I feel like there was some other thing that we were looking at.
Linda, I think that's the case because when I talked with Sean, which was a few weeks ago, I think at the end of August, she was going to get the Conservancy Board access to the data, the underlying data for this map. Because I said I can probably go on Merlin and find the parcels that kind of match up here, but I said it would be really useful for us for discussion and kind of analysis to have whatever data was put into creating this.
Yeah, I mean that should be easily done if it's not, like a report should be able to be generated. There is the opportunity then to go in parcel by parcel and sort of like learn a little bit more, but there should be, it should be pretty easy to do a spreadsheet.
Okay, yeah, and whatever data went to making this, you just can export that as a spreadsheet as well, I think so.
Jack, when you had conversations with the city, do you think when we get this light green areas for potential easements, they mean under the control of the Conservancy Board or under the control of the city or whatever? Because there's always this, who's going to be controlling which easements, right? I mean, we got this mishmash of city control over easements and ourselves control over easements. What are they intending with this map, do you think?
That's
Us? Are we the hope for the light green potential easement areas in their view?
so that wasn't really a topic with Sean. I was just wanted to get to the bottom of how this was
What
put
are they?
together and what
Yeah.
data went into it.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good question to ask, and we should be asking that question. I think maybe that's a question more for planning and zoning or for Jackie and Racine. I'm not sure who the right person at the city would be.
What if we just submitted that as one of our feedback issues and said we'd like the city to clarify, in their plan? Why shouldn't their plan say, now they've identified all these areas for potential easements to be held by whom?
Well, we're not, I mean, Trudy, just to clarify, we're not a separate legal entity that holds easements ourselves
But
necessarily.
sometimes the city is responsible
It's
for,
the responsibility, I think, that you're focused on of soliciting and then monitoring afterwards.
yes,
Yeah.
however you describe it, does that light blue mean that the comp plan is saying to us, the Conservancy Board, these are appropriate for you to go after to retain and have under the management of the Conservancy Board, or that's the city's job? I mean, yeah, it's a question of, if we put our energies into this, is this what this means? That they want us to put our energies in the low-hanging fruit of these lighter green ones,
I think
don't
the
think-
comp plan's bigger picture than that.
All
It's a
right,
bigger
well,
picture planning. So like, all it says is that these are areas that are, or potential easements. Like these are areas that are environmentally protected, and there will be and the recommendation was that there should be a greenway map that's updated annually. So I would think that like that updated annually document would be where that more detailed information comes from about like what the mechanism is and who's in charge of it once it comes into being.
to me, that's fine, but all the more reason why it's the cities to get that level of specificity before we get ourselves too enmeshed in how to create these easement areas. If in the end the city wants to be responsible for doing that and managing them, I don't know.
No, I think you bring up a good point, Trudy. I think we're still, as far as, with respect to this map goes, we're kind of scratching the surface. And, I saw this as an opportunity for us to prioritize and then maybe begin the process with the city in soliciting the dedication of, one or more of these areas for potential easements.
I think there's good cause to like pilot something, because Karen, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I think this is a bit of a new turn for the board in terms of looking proactively, because some of this is going to be a voluntary basis where we're reaching out to see if there's interest versus something coming to us and reacting through the development process, the regulatory side. So, maybe it's that we pilot our way through one of these where between our board members and city staff, we hone in on one site that people know that might be in transition, or that it might just be right for a conversation we can have. And that would be something where we could just develop how we in practice, how we go about doing this in collaboration with the city.
I think that's a great suggestion, kind of a
I think that's
pilot.
great. Nothing wrong with initiative to find a site that we think we would like to manage the process through.
And I think the real value of this map is not so much for, I mean, it's definitely valuable for like soliciting easements also, but I think more importantly is its value in if a development comes through the city, they're going to compare it to this map and be like, oh, wait, the development is slated for an area that was identified as an environmental enhancement area. And then they'll be more thoughtful about whether or not that development should be allowed or or if it should be, done in a certain way to protect the environmental features around there. So there's nothing like that currently. So that's where I think that this has the biggest impact.
A good point. This kind of serves as like, hey, we documented this and now, there's a development coming in, but hey, we've done this already and understood. Yeah, I guess, I think trying to figure out what our role is, because I think that absolutely we should have a role in, however this evolves. But, whether we're like Linda's saying, whether we're spearheading, finding a new easement and then starting to be proactive about it, or whether we're working with the city if a new development comes up and comparing it to this map, I think that's what we need to figure out how, what kind of role we want to play with this. My opinion is that I would like to try to, under our solicit dedication of properties duty, to try, I think that this pilot program should try to pick one of these easements that we think is feasible. That would be something I'd be interested to, discuss further.
I agree. And what are those great big areas there? What are they? Does anybody, I'm sure several people on this board know, what are those?
I think that's one down here is Crystal Spring Farm.
Oh,
Which will
that's-
definitely not be an easement held by the city. They've already said that that would be probably Scenic Rivers Land
it's
Trust
Scenic
or something
Rivers,
like
yeah.
that.
Because there's, if we want to go for something with significance, there's some big ones there.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And there's also some good ones, there's this one that connects off of Truxton Park, here off of Hilltop Lane. And then these couple of properties that are off of, I guess, this is like Hawkins Cove down here in Eastport. Yeah, so I think, I don't know if we need to make a motion or anything, but I would like to, I have a note out to Sean to get the data for this. And then I would like to share it with the Conservancy, with all of our members, and talk about how we can, advance this. So I don't know if we need to make a motion for that. I'd be happy to if we do, but that's how I would like to proceed if everybody agrees.
I would
I think-
suggest, we do have to be thoughtful about discussing particular private properties. That is somewhat sensitive, and it would be through the voluntary means. So I think maybe there's a subgroup that really dives into some of the details and tries to hone in on a couple sites to find out more about them and more about the landowner interest.
Well, Linda, it sounds like you just volunteered for the for the new potential easement committee membership. I'm happy to join you.
I think we should get advice from the city attorney. Like, if we bring something forward where a few of us feel like, oh, this would be a good one to do outreach on. I don't know if we have to do a motion on it or what have you, but like, we could name it, we could give names to different properties to keep kind of the sensitivity there when we're having our meetings. That's just how it's conducted in the conservation world. You're not openly discussing private properties and details in a public forum. So
Thank you. That's very helpful for that with your real world experience. And I understand. So it sounds like maybe the next step here is to form a small committee whoever would be interested and to advance this in conjunction with the city. Do we need to move to do that?
Does anyone need to, do we know how many people? Karen, do you know how many people we can have meet together at one time without having a full board?
So I have our bylaws right here. Let's see, quorum and voting, actions without meetings, how to take action, any decision made without meeting shall be made by a majority of the board. Policy and procedures. I don't know if there's anything explicit about meeting.
That's generally a thing.
Yeah, that
Right,
might be
Karen?
a question for Racine if she's on the call, because there is something about like if too many people meet, that's considered
Probably
a
if we have
meeting that
quorum.
has to meet the adequate facilities,
I thought
you
it
know,
was.
or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. That sounds like an attorney question. It seems to me that you should be able to meet outside of the actual monthly or bi-monthly meetings, but you can't really pass anything or vote on anything during those meetings. You can discuss, but not vote.
I mean, this
That
is
makes sense.
Tom. I think you've got a basic working group. I mean, that's going to happen, you know, when anybody is together. We had the group that went and toured the various sites years ago, and we had the entire board out there, but that wasn't necessarily designated as a meeting. You know, it's just that there's definitely a workaround, you know, as far as that goes. Jack, one other thing you were mentioning as we go down this route. Is when the annual update that you were talking about, you know, to the comprehensive plan or to the greenway or whatever we're going to call the thing, you know, if that is something that we feel strongly about, and I think probably would be, then you've got actually a financial responsibility that goes along with that. Somebody has to perform the updates, and since we really don't have a budget to do any of that stuff, we're not really in a position to even, you know, commit the city to do something on that order. So we start, you know, we're tiptoeing, you know, around the minefield here while we're trying to figure out exactly the best way for the group to, you know, to go forward with it. It almost makes sense for them to have a separate group with the, you know, the inputs of the various board members, which I'm sure they could find as far as, okay, what do we want the greenway to look for or look at, which includes what's held by the Severn River Land Trust, which includes what's held by the Conservancy Board, which are regular other easements, but, you know, basically function the same way going on through. You know, we need to be able to get our group together to do a little bit more in the weeds stuff. So, you know, I think we can do that at your behest and keep everybody kind of, you know, without calling it a public meeting, just to kind of like, okay, this is how we're going to do our own housekeeping, or this is the direction that we need to go, and then formalize it at the next meeting that you have for public. 2 cents worth.
Tom, thank you, and I hope that you're feeling okay. Yeah, no, that I appreciate that feedback, and you know, according to the bylaws here, the chair may appoint special committees to carry out Conservancy Board objectives. So
Right.
under that heading,
Agree, Jack.
yeah, so under that heading, I am going to hereby appoint a special committee to carry out this objective of advancing the areas for potential easements. And I think that's going to involve interfacing with probably planning and zoning, with Racine and Jackie, with the city, you know, Office of Law, you know, Eric Lashinsky, Sean Wampler. So kind of helping to support the city and getting support from the city, and ultimately making some recommendations. Because like you said, Tom, we don't have a budget. We're not going to be recording an easement, but I think part of our role is to help facilitate that and to help provide, you know, guidance and recommendations to the city on how to do that and where to do that. Is how I see our role.
Concur. Yep, no,
Well,
concur. Okay.
I'd be happy that of all the work of the Conservancy that interests me, this is the most. So I guess this is where I better say I'd put my energies. I don't know how much energies I'd put in, but I certainly have been eager all these years to see us try to expand some parcels. So you can count me in if we can get some momentum going. That'd be great. So
Okay,
you need another volunteer for that committee. This would be the committee I would most volunteer for.
thank you, Trudy. That means a lot. And
It's like my old days of being a developer, you know, getting land.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think your insight would be helpful, and especially thinking about things like who's going to hold the easement, bringing the perspective that you have, I think will be beneficial.
And see, you've all heard this, but I live by a piece of land that nobody cares about, and it's on there, the city owns it, and but we act like we're tiptoeing through somebody's sensitive soul. I mean, if there aren't other pieces of land, I can't believe we're the only piece of land, a ravine that nobody cares about, nobody pays any attention to. I guess it's city-owned land, but I'm not even sure the city knows it's city-owned land. So anyway, I just think that there are opportunities of almost neglected land in the city that we can take some initiative and be the actor to try to push something. Not my little ravine doesn't matter. It's on, but more significantly, what's really going to contribute to a greenway. Although you can see my little ravine there in West Annapolis goes down to the water, And so
I think it had a wet one there, which was why.
yeah, it is. It's a mess. I've been
It
throwing
was
my
targeted.
bushes down there for years, so I just know there are such things as totally neglected land that nobody has. I mean, the city owns it, but they don't pay any attention to it. People throw their trees in it.
I feel like they are starting to surface those areas and make the connections to act on them, because isn't it the activity around College Creek that they're, pulling some things together? I forget what you call it, but, and the
Yeah.
example of
near Route Boulevard and on College
Yeah.
Creek there. Yeah.
My only point being, I think there's a number of parcels we could work on that nobody's sensitive about. It's my comment. I don't really.
Sounds
belong
like
to
that could be a criteria for our, prioritization there.
Oh,
Trudy.
might be,
So on this committee, I would like to participate. It sounds like Trudy is also in. Linda, I would really appreciate if you could support as well. And then anyone else who may be interested, I think, if you're interested, we would be happy to get folks' input. We'll check with the city attorney and make sure that we're following all of the public information and all of our requirements when we discuss things to do with this committee. But pending that, whoever would like to sign up, please speak now.
Okay. Jack, will you, if you're communicating with Sean about getting the details, will you put me on those emails? Because I could just take over that communication if you want.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'll copy Linda into correspondence with Sean.
Aaron, don't you want to do this? You know more about these little nooks and crannies of the city than anybody.
All right.
I mean, I kind of see this as one of our this will be one of our kind of focuses probably for the foreseeable until this comp plan is finalized and all this is set in stone. And even then we probably can still keep working it. So
I'll just say that I'm more interested in the identifying parcels and thinking about greenways than actually doing the outreach stuff. So I'll
Okay.
leave that part to other people.
I think that's fair, and thank you for being.
That's why I didn't initially raise my hand.
We won't,
No,
we won't ask you
there's-
to make phone calls and go knock on doors if we ever get to that point. Okay, great. Well, I don't think we need a motion there, but now we have a new committee, and I will come up with a fun, pithy name. For now, we're going for our potential easement committee.
So Jack, I have to tell you with great guilt that I am on vacation with a group who is preparing dinner, and I told them that I would come when dinner is ready, and they have just signaled me. So I'm afraid you've gotten all you're going to get out of me tonight. I'm sorry very
Well,
much.
we got a committee assignment from you, so that
Okay.
is
All right.
appreciated.
And with enthusiasm, but I do apologize for needing to go. But you know, this doesn't happen in my life very often, so that I get together with family. So
We'll enjoy. We'll let you
thank
know if there's anything else that we need to follow up after the meeting.
and we're watching, for anybody interested down here at the Outer Banks, we're watching the beginning of the waves and wind from Hurricane Lee, and it's makes quite an exciting vista out our window. It's really a choppy ocean out there, and for what that's worth.
We'll be safe, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for understanding. So
Thanks,
sorry.
Judy. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, under the same heading, I believe the second bullet is assign action items and board lead. I think we have that done with our potential easement committee. And our action item is to follow up with a few of the city folks, make sure that we can do this, make sure we understand the requirements for the public facing part of this, and I'll loop Linda in with Sean Wampler to get the GIS data sorted out. MOU with county, I keep that on here in the hopes that there may be some update. I do not have an update. And I don't know if there's any status. I think that was with the city, right?
Racine, do you have any update about that by any chance?
Apologize, I really don't. I'm just, if you'd like me to follow up with it, I can.
That's good. I keep it on our agenda because if there is a change, it would be good for us to know and understand if there's a way that we can support or make use of the MOU.
Now, just to be clear, what is this MOU with the county and with the city that I might be able to follow up with for you?
It's about how to split program open space money for conserving properties. It's property acquisition money from program open space.
Okay, I'll ask Jackie about that and see if there's anything I can get an update for you on that.
Thank you, Racine. All right, I'm going to move on to administer and managing said properties, which is another one of this board's duties. The first item on here is Thomas Woods. So I received from the city's Office of Law a new, I believe it's a deed of conservation easement. I don't want to misspeak here. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I believe it's a deed of conservation easement, but it only had language and no mapping, or I didn't actually see the deed itself.
Has this been updated to our website?
Not that I'm aware of, because I had the website open yesterday and was looking at current easements, and it doesn't.
I wonder if
Is
it's
it-
the one that we used to call Rocky Gorge that's being developed off of Ayers T. Allen.
Yeah, and I was a little bit confused where it was too, right? Because Thomas Woods didn't ring any bells with me. It's either that one, Karen, or it's a small development off of Forest Drive, kind of near the True Value. Thomas Woods Conservation Easement. So I will put this in our Google Drive. I just have it in my email right now. But
So
there,
it's one that the city recently sort of, we uncovered, we have this easement over here,
yeah,
or it's in the works.
it's WSTR Building Company, Thomas Woods Homeowners Association. But there's no attachments that are the mapping, and there's no attachments that were sent with this.
Does it have a legal description, tax ID numbers or anything?
It has conservation easement area. There's 0.4 acres, 0.1 acres, and an area that shouldn't even count. It's 400 square feet. Each shown on it gives the plat numbers and plat book, and so I will circulate this to everyone and put it on our shared Google Drive. But I think
Jack,
understanding where it is.
include me in that so that I follow up with planning and zoning.
Sorry, Racine, it was a little hard to hear you there.
I apologize. Will you include me in copying me on information that you send out about Thomas Woods so that I might be able to follow up with planning and zoning?
Absolutely. Okay, so Thomas Woods, send that information to Google Drive. Copy Racine. Okay. So that's just for everyone's information. Allegedly, there is a new conservation easement that we will likely need to inspect, and I think it's worth some discussion with this group of the value of that easement and anything else we want to look into.
Right. Jack, I'm wondering, do we go out and do like a preliminary, once we know exactly where it is, one or two of us go out, take a look at it, maybe do a little write-up on it to see if it's something we really should be tracking, and or maybe if it's something we should be tracking, maybe it doesn't need to be, like some of these we're learning, you know, maybe we don't need to do annual inspections.
I think that's a great suggestion. I mean, apparently this easement has 3 separate areas, one of them being 400 square feet, which is like 0.0009 acres. So, right, I mean, do we need to go to that area every year? I think that's worth discussing, and we'll have to talk with someone at the city, maybe planning and zoning knows a little more about the easement, but try to get some mapping and maybe figure out a little more of where the easement areas are, and if this property is developed now. I don't really know the status. I just got this email from Ashley a little bit ago. So
If the plat's recorded, someone should be able to pull that plat, or the law department should have it in their files.
yeah, I think so. And I think, you know, there's a space for the exhibits and things to be attached here. They're just not attached.
Yeah.
Liber, yeah, we have a Liber and folio, so I'll send this around. All right, so that's that one. It sounds like once we get some more info, Patrick, do you want to spearhead a visit there if that's appropriate for?
Yeah, absolutely, I'd do that, and then I'd
Okay.
bring back, come back to the board and say, you know, this is what it is, and give a little description of it, and kind of what my recommendation would be in terms of how frequently we'd have to go out there and inspect it, that type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if I'm available, I'd be happy to join you as well. Okay. The next bullet here is easement inspections. I know that we, aim.
Can I, sorry, before you move on, I just Googled it and it sits on Forest Drive at Forest Hills Drive.
Yeah, that's where, so that's the one near True Value that I was talking about. So I think that's where it is. But I guess I just don't know on that property where what is the conservation area and what's the developed area. So we'll have to just look a little more into it. Yeah, it's right past Quiet Waters Landing, I think.
And Jack, you were informed about this from Ashley?
This came from Ashley, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I recall a development on the way, some forest clearing there, I think. On that right-hand side going out.
So yeah, the city's processing, this was in August, so I'm a little behind the ball here, but. So yeah, I'll circulate that and we'll get out there and have a look if it's appropriate. Thanks, Karen. So for our easement inspections, how would we like to do this year? I think, last year it seemed like it worked pretty well. We kind of divvied up the easements, assigned a few to each person. My feelings are that we could do that same thing if we want. I also think we haven't finished our conversation about, do we need to inspect all of these easements every year? And I don't know if right now is the right time to have that conversation, but the floor is open for discussion on easement inspections for this year and how to go about that. Do we just want to do the same thing as we did last year?
I think it might be easiest to just do what we did last year and then continue the conversation about if we want to not do it every year, or do some every year and others multi-year.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just my suggestion.
I think that makes a lot of sense because I don't think we're really in a position to make those decisions about which ones need to be inspected versus not right now. And we already have a good framework for assigning the easement inspections to our different members. So, okay. That works for me. I will take an action there. Jack will send out inspection assignments from last year and remind everyone to try and inspect before end of the year. Great.
Yeah, I plan on doing mine maybe when the leaves start to change. Someone in the group had suggested once the leaves start to fall, that way you can get a little bit more when all the fall foliage isn't there blocking trash and other debris. Right now, when I go out there, it's really hard to sometimes see through the thicket. So
Definitely. And that actually brings me to the next bullet, or the kind of sub point here of the Save Our Trees group, who actually I spoke with. I did some volunteering with them at Truxton Park, and then spoke with them a couple days ago, and they asked about, they went on the Conservancy Board website and looked at the current easements, and they said, hey, would you be open, or would the Conservancy Board be open to Save Our Trees doing some cleanup, removal of invasive species at the Children's Museum, which is, I think it's called what's it called, like officially? It's the one that's at the Chesapeake Children's Museum on Spa Creek. I think it's Spa Creek Nature Center or something like that. But anyway, this group Save Our Trees is doing a lot of volunteer events. I think they're looking for some funding for invasive removal. And I think they're also now looking at doing not only removal, but some rehabilitation of, planting native species to try to encourage, good stewardship of environmental areas. I did not, I said that I'd like to discuss with our board before giving them an answer, but I thought that generally there's not really any negatives to, working with Save Our Trees and having them come in and remove some invasives. And I would encourage, if we proceed with that and they get a date set up, it would be great if some of our members could come out and help remove some invasives and kind of get an idea for what Save Our Trees does and how we can continue to work with them. But discussion is open for that.
I think that's a great idea. Oh, sorry, Linda.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. We just need to make sure that we have property owner buy-in as well.
yeah,
any
I
that
would
we
agree
do.
with that.
I think, is that owned by the city? I can't remember who. owns it.
That one might be.
I'm not completely clear about the Children's Museum and the area surrounding it, but it is, I think, part of city properties. Like whether or not they're leasing the area or not, I can follow up and try to find out about whether or not that's actual city property.
Okay, yeah, because that you bring up a good point, Karen, making sure that we have permission and we're not going to ruffle any feathers, even though we're doing what I consider to be a positive thing. Okay, so I have here, we'll figure out who owns the Spa Creek Nature Center, make sure that we have property owner buy-in and permission, and then I can follow up with Save Our Trees and see if they have a date in mind, and I will keep everybody in the loop.
And how are they finding funding? Are they looking to the city to help, or?
I think so. And Racine, I don't want to put you two on the ball here, but I think that you have talked with Save Our Trees as well. And I don't know what the status is of conversations, but
yeah, I talked to Teresa McKenna and Marianne Maubrey. Marianne is actually also a member of the Environmental Commission. but Teresa McKenna is Save Our Trees, sort of the linchpin and foundation of Save Our Trees. And so I've talked to her about the city does have some funding for community grants. And there's some stipulations, of course, that go along with the grants. We also spoke about looking for funding through the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. And the Save Our Trees has recently sort of combined forces with the Watershed Stewards Academy. And because they are now affiliated with the Watershed Stewards Academy, and the Watershed Stewards Academy has also gone for funding through the CBT. I don't understand all the ins and outs of it, but the Save Our Trees no longer really qualifies for funding through CBT. But we are still looking for funding through the city's community grant program. And anything else that might come along, if anybody comes across anything.
I think Maryland DNR might have some.
Oh, DNR is a great idea.
I'm not sure what program that would be under, but
I'm not either. I was just Googling it. Sorry. It's just Maryland offers grants for aquatic invasive species removal. That's aquatics.
yeah, I mean, what I understand from talking with Terry and Marianne from Save Our Trees is that a lot of what they've done so far has been purely volunteer. They ask folks to bring their own tools. They kind of give the little, they give the short training on how to safely remove the vines, and that's pretty much it. So I think what they're looking to do is get a little more sophisticated, a little bit more strategic, and you know, part of that comes with needing some funding. So okay, so it sounds like we've got some consensus there on advancing that at the Children's Museum. I like that. I like what I'm hearing. Okay. Under here, I'm gonna try to keep moving because we got more to get through. We've got recommendations to the city on easements. And I don't know that there's really much to discuss here, but as we perform the easement inspections, you know, like Trudy had discovered the broken fence with this one easement, and there was trash and things like that. And so I think just keeping in mind as we inspect easements for this year, if there's anything that we want to recommend to the city for actions to take. I don't think there's anything specific under that item, but I will open for discussion if there is. Not hearing any, going to move on. The missing information. So this was, Patrick did a great job of putting together for our existing easements what information is outstanding, you know, what deeds are missing, what maps are seem inaccurate, plats, because that's really kind of Patrick's expertise is on the real estate side. And Patrick, I don't know if we ever had a full download from you on the work that you had done, and maybe we don't have to do that right here, but if you have any kind of a summary or anything you want to say about the missing information effort.
So what I'll say is I got about 50% of the way through.
Okay.
And then I've dropped the ball and I haven't worked on it in a few months. So I think a good action item for me is to finish off my review and then to have at our next meeting a kind of download, providing a kind of an executive summary of kind of things I found.
Okay.
And then I'll also produce maybe like a small little report that the board can read and can be provided.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually, now that you say it, I think I remember we did talk about it, and you said that of like the 13 easements you had reviewed, 9 of them had some sort of missing information or something like that. I don't remember specifics, but
it might have been just the first 13 I reviewed had the mistakes.
yeah, right. The next slug could all be perfect.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical, but
okay. Some
great.
of it was small things, so.
Right. Yeah. But still, you know, making sure that we have a full picture and all the information that we need, I think is important. And I think that's a good, valuable effort. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I will be, Patrick, I will be looking maybe for next meeting. I think we meet in I guess we meet in November. I will get you on the agenda for that. That will be a good discussion to have.
Perfect.
Okay, under our next main duty point here is encouraging the preservation of environmentally sensitive land. I think that we discussed this pretty well under the first duty there. So I don't really have anything else to add here about encouraging environmentally sensitive land preservation. I also mentioned under here the comp plan, opportunities to submit comments. I've reviewed the comp plan and I didn't, beyond digging into these potential new easements and maybe providing some recommendations on how which ones we think should be prioritized. I didn't really have specific comments for the city on the comp plan. I would invite anybody else's comments, and we have an opportunity. I think next week the comment period closes, but if anybody else wants to work together and put together some comments we can get to the city on the comp plan, I think that would be a good thing for us to do.
I emailed to everybody yesterday evening. Sorry for it was so late, but my list of suggested comments from the board.
Oh,
Yeah, and I took a look and I
Karen.
generally agree with most of those things. So thank you, Karen, for putting those
Yeah.
together.
Good job.
yeah, that's great. Actually, I hadn't had a chance. I've been really tied up. I hadn't had a chance to look at that yet, but thank you, Karen. That's really helpful.
Yeah, sorry again that it came so late. Hopefully better late than never.
We're all, yeah, I was gonna say, we are all volunteers here, so understandable. Okay, well, that's great. So I will review that as well. And I think, before the public comment period ends, if we compile our comments and submit to the city, I think that's a good way for us to play a role here.
So when did you say the comment period ends?
I think it's September 21st. I'd have to double check, but I thought it was the 21st.
I know it's really soon.
It started. I'll figure it out, but it's very soon. Very soon. So I think we have just, a few days to get our comments in. Officially, for that official public comment period. I don't have anything else under that duty. Preservation. The next duty is further implement goals for improving water quality. This one's a little bit, I think we're kind of starting from, we don't really have goals for improving water quality. And I'm not sure that the city has, specific goals for improving water quality that we can piggyback on. But, this does kind of tie into the comp plan and potential new easements with identifying areas to protect that contain water resources. I don't know. I would, if anybody has ideas here or thoughts on how the board can further implement goals for improving water quality. Discussion.
Well, one thing that we had done was we had tried to get some action on identifying it's not the Brewer Avenue easement, but it's like one of the ones near there, which is where College Creek, is that College Creek? I think it's College Creek,
Yeah.
where it comes out pipe,
Creek.
and have that identified for an environmental restoration project to help improve water quality. So I think things like that we could do. Like if we are aware of things in or near our easements that could be useful in that way to help improve water quality. That might be one way to tackle this goal.
That's where we went to. We visited that when we were doing our easement inspections, right? Is that, Karen, is that the same spot? Yeah, that huge outfall there.
Yeah.
That it drains down then to the behind the police department and underneath Taylor.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if this is way off base or not, but if you can identify easements that have water access or you're near streams, that need a cleanup, then there could be identified as areas that need stream cleanups, and maybe we, me specifically in the city, can arrange some stream cleanups and things like that, and that would go toward water quality and the MS4 permit for the city.
That's a great suggestion, Racine. And one of some of those ones on Spa Creek off Spa Road immediately come to mind. Like there's one that's along Spa Creek next to where the Public Works building used to be, that like people can like often like dump trash there. So that would be a perfect one if it's accessible. Although I'm not sure how, it's kind of steep banks there. I would have to like, we might have to like check it and make sure that it's actually accessible, but I'm sure there are places for sure that are
Right.
easements. Yeah.
And one of the things I would do is I would reach out to the nonprofit organizations like Spa Creek Conservancy, et cetera, to see if they'd be willing to work with the city and partner with us for stream cleanup. So they might have a good or a better idea about which streams are more approachable for cleanup. If you want to go in that direction, I'm open to that.
Great, I love that. I mean, that's kind of goes hand in hand with the invasive removal, stream cleanup, getting the community engaged, having a positive impact, even if it's, just picking up some trash or removing some vines. I think that's a great thing for us to help with. Karen, I'm looking now back at the area for potential easement map, and that area is identified probably because you or someone on the board before I was involved identified it.
Which one? Because the two I just mentioned are both already easements.
The College Creek, the near the Brewer Ave easement.
That one's already an easement. So
Oh, not according to this map.
I don't have the map in front of me, so I'm not sure.
Oh, so
But,
that's already, that area you're saying that we visited is already an easement.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
okay.
that was why it came to our attention in the first place. Or actually, no, you know what? I think it's city owned. It was an easement, and then
Isn't it annexed to the city or something?
well, it was like the property owner didn't want it anymore, and so they transferred it to the city. Like, because it was like, so sorry, here we go back into the history of Conservancy Board history. But so we thought there was an easement. I think or there might have been an easement there. At any rate, there was like a tree that fell back there. Somebody called the city to have the tree removed. Jan von Zupton, who was the city forester at the time, went out there, and because it was an easement on private property, he called the property owner, who didn't even know that they owned that property because it had been inherited like through multiple lines. And so they weren't really interested in holding on to that property. And so we actually worked to help facilitate getting that property transferred to the city as a fee simple, so that the city would own it in order to do a stream restoration project there. So that's probably why, because it might just be city owned property and not actually have an easement on it anymore.
Okay. So, I mean, I know we were talking about places like Truxton Park where there isn't an easement, but because it was purchased with program open space funding, it doesn't necessarily need an easement to conserve the land because that goes along with the open space funding. But maybe we can talk about this further. We can email about it, but sounds like maybe that is a potential easement that we could recommend.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it was already recommended, because I know there were a few that were being considered together, because like Hawkins Cove, the city property at Hawkins Cove, and then the Ellen Moyer Nature Park areas. And there was like, that was there was like this whole saga of trying to get money for boundary surveys, that then the city like was able to get permission to use the oh, what's the word I'm looking for? The critical area fees they're able to use those towards the boundary surveys. But then like some other things have come into play where then they were kind of waiting to see what happened before they put easements on things. So like, for example, at the Ellen Moyer Park, I think, you know, like the Maritime Museum's using it now. So that I think there's like some concern about putting an easement on it, since the Maritime Museum might want to do certain things there. And then Hawkins Cove, they're just waiting until they have a plan for what they're going to do at Hawkins Cove and before they put an easement on it. And so things like that have happened. But I think that probably this other parcel had been that's at the head of College Creek, had been part of this like discussion of like, oh, here are all these city parcels that should get easements. But it's just that like the other ones have kind of gotten delayed because of this or that. And so but it'd be good to probably push on moving that one forward.
I mean, this is why it's so nice to meet as a group, because that sounds like we're kind of honing in a little bit on that area, which is already owned by the city, and saying this could be a potentially good easement. Okay. So I think that we should keep that in mind as we work with our potential easement committee, and keep that, whether it's one, I can't tell from the map because it's not high resolution if it's one parcel or multiple parcels there, but sounds like the city owns that area. So okay, thanks, Karen. Always really helpful with the background institutional knowledge here for us new people. Okay, I don't have anything else under the water quality improvement goals. But I think that's a good place to start, is, you know, keep discussing that area in the College Creek headwaters, because I think protecting the headwaters is a great way to protect water quality. Under our last duty, I have providing for the development of additional recreational resources. The main thing under here, when I think recreational resources, is public water access and parks. There was just at the city council meeting on Monday, there was a resolution R4323 about.
I'm gonna have to recluse myself from this discussion just
Okay.
for so I'm just gonna step out of the meeting for a minute. I'll be back when you finish discussing.
Fair enough. I don't have much to discuss, so it won't be long. I saw this. I got an email about the city council meeting and talking about public water access at Wells Cove. I don't know what the result was of Monday night's city council meeting, and I don't know if there's a role for the Conservancy board to play. I know this has been an ongoing issue, but I think that looking for opportunities for public water access, you know, on conservation easements or on city-owned property, I think is a way we can help. I don't personally have any real areas to discuss under this, but I thought that it was relevant to this duty that we have, and so I included it. Yeah, I'll open it for discussion, but I don't have much more to contribute beyond that, just to keep on our radar.
I wasn't, do you know what the resolution was for? Was there an action?
Yeah, I have it pulled up. It's for the purpose of ensuring public can walk along the Wells Cove waterfront and enter the water to use small watercraft such as kayaks and paddle boards at the Wells Cove inlet. This has been a long, I remember seeing this, and this has been in the news and then kind of local discussion for a very long time. And I was interested, I guess I can follow up with city council or at Racine. I don't know if you know, but I'm looking on the city's webpage right now and it says final action and there's nothing listed. So it was on the agenda Monday.
With the resolution, I'd have to do some investigation there.
Okay. Yeah, it's looks like city council, there are meeting details, but anyway, I mean, I see, you know, part of developing recreation resources with how much waterfront and water we have in the city, I think is providing, you know, identifying opportunities for public water access. And that kind of goes hand in hand with looking at water resources and sensitive environmental land we want to conserve. So I think, you know, I'll keep including this on our agendas, but I think it's just something for us to keep in mind when there's an opportunity for recreational resources to think about public water access and whatever other additional recreational resources we could identify. That's all I have there. And as far as our agenda goes, that brings us to the end of our existing business. And our last item on here is updates and new business. And we've got the Greenway map and the next steps. And I believe that we handled that under our first order of, or our first duty, which was to create the potential easement committee. So any new business, please, the floor is all yours.
I wanted to raise the question of whether we should return to in-person meetings.
Ooh. How do you feel
Yes,
about that?
at least occasionally.
Well, sorry, Linda, what was that?
I said I would support that at least occasionally.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I think it would be great to all be in the same space and we could have some like maps laid out on the table, or, you know, I like the in-person, but I also think it's very convenient, at least for me. I know that I barely got home from work today before the meeting. So it's almost beneficial to be able to do it virtually as well. Maybe we have kind of a hybrid schedule. I don't know. What do we think makes sense?
It's not very convenient for me to do it at home. But so I would prefer to meet in person. So maybe we could do every other one or something to
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I actually never did an in-person meeting because when I joined the board, it was, you know, the post-COVID era. Was that at City Hall?
No, it was at Pitt Moyer Rec
Okay.
Center. So I think usually I'm not sure about the last time we met at Pitt Moyer Center, which has been post-pandemic, but prior to the pandemic, I think Tammy Hook was or somebody from the city was getting the meeting space for us.
Right. The last meeting, I don't know the exact date, but it was post-pandemic. It was not too many meetings ago. It was during that brief period of time that Michael Laplace
Oh, yeah.
was the director of planning and zoning, and he was at the meeting, I think. But you let me know and I can make the arrangements with Parks for the meeting room.
Do we need to make a motion to meet in person for our November meeting, or can we just do that?
I would think you should vote on it because it's been so typical or unusual for you guys to meet virtually. So this is very different than what you've normally done.
Okay. Well, after the discussion, which I appreciate, I am going to move to hold our next meeting, which I don't have the date in front of me, but I believe is sometime in November. Our November regularly scheduled meeting to hold it in person at the Pitt Moyer Recreation Center, and to then alternate meeting in person and meeting virtually for the time being. I think maybe that will change, but that's my motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I will organize the November meeting Moyer. I will send an email around about the meeting details. It should be our usual meeting time, 5:30. What is it, the second? I get confused.
I think it's the second Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be any different than, normally is, but I will go ahead and do everything I can to arrange that for November.
Racine, thank you so much. And if there is any issue with that, I guess let us know and we'll figure out if I don't know if we're allowed to change our meeting date or if we just do it virtually if we can't.
Or I don't know, maybe we meet somewhere else. I mean, there's also 145 Gorman Street, and I don't know. This was prior to me taking meeting minutes for the Conservancy board. That was when Tammy was doing it. I don't know if you guys ever met at 145 Gorman. But then we need to make arrangements to get you in and for parking and so on and so forth. So I'll let you. I'll look at Pip Moyer tomorrow. I'll jump on this to get it done as soon as possible.
Thank you, Racine.
And I'll let you know.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Racine.
And I heard Karen's going to take us out to Mi Lindo Cancun Grill afterwards. No, that'll be great. So it sounds like we'll know in pretty short order if we've got a space we can reserve for November. I would think we could. It's far enough out, but I don't know how far out the city books that.
Yeah, I don't think it's far enough out.
Okay, great. Any other new business to discuss? All right, folks. I appreciate everybody's time. Really thought that was a productive meeting. And I will follow up, got some action items here. We'll follow up with our potential easement committee. And Patrick, if you want to talk about a time to go to Thomas Woods. Yeah, thanks everybody for your time.
Oh, Jack, actually, one more thing, just before we leave, like what's our steps for moving forward with comments on the comp plan? So you're going to review them. Are you going to compile them and just send them in for us, or what are we going to do? I
would be happy to do that, Karen.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to submit, comments as an individual constituent. I think that's fine too. But I would be, if I can, take your comments and any other comments from the Conservancy board and package them as Conservancy board comments. I'll get that over to, I think it's planning and zoning.
Okay. Do you want to just circulate what you're going to send in just before?
Absolutely. Yep.
Just on email or whatever.
Yep. And I'll give like a deadline for responding with any comments to the comments.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Jack.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a nice night.
Oh, we have to move to adjourn.
Oh.
I move to adjourn.
With no more new business on the agenda and no further discussion, I will therefore move to adjourn this meeting at 6:44 p.m.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.